Hi there, everyone. Welcome to The Daily Gardener. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling. It's April 26th. How close are your earliest bloomers to your front door? Your crocus, snowdrops, iris, daffodils, tulips, forsythia, daphnes, and magnolias. When I redid my front garden last year, the designer had put all my earliest bloomers right near the front porch and walk. When I asked her reasoning, she reminded me of our long winters. And her advice was spot on. When spring finally arrives, it's much more pleasurable to have those earliest blooms right where you can see them first thing when you walk out your front door. Here's today's brevities. Today is the birthday of Eugene Delacroix, born on this day in 1798. A son of France, he received his artistic training in Paris and was a major figure among the French Romance painters of the 19th century. His striking A Vase of Flowers from 1833 shows a crystal vase filled mostly with dahlias, and it's his earliest surviving flower painting. American physicist Charles Townes sat on a park bench on this day in 1951 and came up with the theory that would eventually lead to the laser. He recalled, "I woke up early in the morning and sat in the park. It was a beautiful day, and the flowers were blooming." It's the birthday of Irma Franzen-Heinrichsdorff, a German-born landscape architect. In 1913, she attended the Elmwood School of Gardening. In the 1980s, she recounted the experience in 10 handwritten pages. Here's an excerpt. Every kind of vegetable was cultivated. Countless flowers were multiplied through seeds, cuttings, in order to be sold in the spring or fall. The morning hours passed quickly. At 1 o'clock, we stopped work. At 1:30, we had lunch. At 2:30, we went back to work until 4:30. We then drank tea, and at 7 o'clock, we appeared in festive evening dress for dinner. But I must add, even if it means praising ourselves, we were often found in the garden at 6 o'clock, if not 5 o'clock, or even earlier. Miss Wheeler had never had students as eager as we were. On this day, John James Audubon was born in Haiti in 1785. Audubon said, "A true conservationist knows the world is not given by his fathers, but borrowed from his children." The Ottowa Daily Republic published a charming story about Audubon's burial. There has been erected over his grave an Iona cross, the arms of which are connected by a circular band of stone, making apertures of the four corners at the intersection. In one of these apertures, robins built a nest last month. This fell under the eye of a caretaker who got a pole and dislodged the nest. The birds flew about disconsolately for a while, then went away. So far as anyone knows, Audubon did not turn over in his grave. Neither did any of the carved birds on the cross over his grave cry out. On this day in 1822, visionary 19th century landscape architect Frederick Law Olmsted was born. Aside from his legacy as a landscape architect, Olmsted dedicated his entire life to social reform. In many ways, his designs for public spaces played an important role in his social work. His vision for Central Park was an ordered oasis for all of the city's social classes, where everyone could come together and enjoy nature. Olmsted designed Boston's Emerald Necklace, Forest Park in Springfield, Massachusetts, and Mount Auburn Cemetery in Cambridge. Considered the father of American landscape architecture, he situated his design firm in Brooklyn and named it Fairstead. And it was Frederick Law Olmsted who said, "The enjoyment of scenery employs the mind without fatigue, and yet exercises it, tranquilizes it, and yet enlivens it." Love that one. And he also said, "The root of all my good work is an early respect for, regard, and enjoyment of scenery." In Unearthed Words Every April, one should read Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's thoughts about spring. This passage is from his Kavanagh, written in 1849. It's a lovely reminder to appreciate spring's unfolding. Ah, how wonderful is the advent of the spring, the great annual miracle, which no force can stay, no violence restrain, like love that wins its way and cannot be withstood by any human power, because itself is divine power. If spring came but once in a century instead of once a year, or burst forth with the sound of an earthquake and not in silence, what wonder and expectation would there be in all hearts to behold the miraculous change? We are like children who are astonished and delighted only by the second hand of the clock, not by the hour hand. Today's book recommendation is The Genius of Place, The Life of Frederick Law Olmsted by Justin Martin. In addition to his marvelous professional legacy, this book offers an intimate look at the personal life of Frederick Law Olmsted. His momentous career was rivaled by a tragic personal life, and it's fully portrayed in this book. For today's garden chore, it's another Photo Friday. Today, take photos of the edges of your beds. Evaluate the lines. Examine your plant choices. Do they belong on the edges? Consider incorporating edibles like onions or garlic to the edges of your borders, where they're easy to harvest. Finally, here's something sweet to revive the little botanic spark in your heart. On this week in 1897, a woman named Anna Eliza Reed Woodcock took some branches off of her flowering apple tree and brought them via wheelbarrow down Capitol Avenue to the Michigan State House. While at the State House, Woodcock adorned the office of the Speaker of the House with the blooming branches. She'd been looking out of her kitchen window, and she'd seen her apple trees in bloom. She thought it would make a great state flower, and she knew that the legislature was going to be voting on a state flower soon. She hoped that her apple blossom branches would have some influence. And they did. Woodcock's victory with the legislature sparked a lifelong passion for apple blossoms. She said, "I feel my apple blossoms have taken me to the top of the world." Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. The Daily Gardener is produced weekdays in lovely Maple Grove, Minnesota. You can find complete show notes over at the website at thedailygardener.org. And be sure to share the show with your garden friends. You can find The Daily Gardener on all of your favorite social media, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, and of course, Facebook. And while you're over at Facebook, don't forget to join the Daily Gardener community. Just search for these 3 words, Daily Gardener Community, and then the group will pop right up, and then you can request to join. Finally, I want to thank my team over at Podfly Productions, where my fabulous editor is Eric Begay. Have a great weekend in the garden, and we'll see you on Monday.